got a couple of great speakers to kick off the evening, and I'd like to welcome first Sam Evans, Arc of the Electric Viking. So here he is tonight, and great to have you with us, Sam. So welcome.
Now, I know nothing in comparison to some of you guys in some very technical areas. And at the CSIRO recently, when I gave a talk on what I'm about to share with you, I felt like I was an absolute beginner. It's this stuff's very complicated, and I only understand it on a basic level. So Australia's got lots of problems. This is meant to be a 30-minute talk. I'm going to condense it and get through it as quickly as I can. Car pollution, coal pollution, expensive electricity, solar being wasted, we have all these problems. And we're at this point where a lot of you guys with businesses here, it's sort of just starting to go. Does everyone know what this is? Everyone here knows what the solid duct curve is?
No. ZENe people do, but the others might not.
Yeah, so in Australia we have 4 million households have solar. But probably at least 50% of that solar is wasted during the day because we're not using it during the day. So it's just being completely wasted. That's my family there. There's Jack and Kel there. Just thought I'd tell you guys a bit about it. So we moved to Newcastle, and that was because Shannon got cancer, stage 4 colorectal cancer. We moved here because we'd always lived in Melbourne, but her family they're from Newcastle. So we thought, well, if you've only got a few years left, we'll move to Newcastle. So that's why we did that. That's the Newcastle pool. That's our house there in Newcastle. We've got 56 solar panels on the roof. And I'm doing the same thing. Well, I was wasting all this solar during the day. I'm seeing it all going and it's going to nothing. I've got some batteries now though, so that's awesome. Now I'm not using any electricity on the grid. So if you tell people there that coal has already hit its peak, which it has, coal actually hit its peak about 4 months ago and it's actually declining now. It's the first time in 100 years that's happened. If you tell them that, they freak out. They think they're going to lose their jobs, because they will. It's sad, but it's true. So Newey's the coal city. That's all about coal, right? Probably 30% of the jobs in Newcastle are about coal. So I have to not push this point too hard in Newcastle. They want to run me out of there. Some people already hate me. They found out who I am, and one of my neighbours, he looks at me. When he sees me drive the electric car into the driveway, he's that's a different one. Yeah. So there's a picture of it. Now, for those of you who don't know, they say that in the United States, 22 million people died prematurely from coal dust over the last 30 years. 22 million. So it does have some pretty big health effects. More than half of all of Australians would like their car to double as a battery that can feed power back into the grid. Massive opportunity, and I think this is the biggest economic opportunity in Australia of anything over the next 5-10 years. People always email me, what should I do? What should my business be about? Should I consult? And I think this is it. I think this is where the money's going to go. Surprisingly, my car works with vehicle to grid, and in fact, the guys who are doing the vehicle to grid testing in Australia actually bought my car because it works with vehicle to grid. But it's not the only one. There's others that do too. Yours, mate?
Okay.
Possible.
Could you explain for my friend what vehicle to grid means?
Yep. Vehicle to grid is when you can, there's lots of names for it. There's V2X, there's V2 Home, but anyway, we'll just give you a broad general explanation. When you can use your car to power your house, but also to send power into the grid. So you can make money. I get these texts on my phone at about 5 p.m. You guys get these as well from your electricity supply. Electricity prices are spiking. So what you can do is you can get all that solar you use, you put into your home batteries, and you can send it back into the grid at 5 o'clock and you can make yourself some money every day. And guess what? It's one of the only ways to make money tax-free in Australia. I looked it up. You don't have to pay tax on it. Yeah. So Solar Quote said this vehicle to grid is a furphy, and they explain why they think it's not going to work, and I completely disagree. There's the confusion and complexity around it. It's quite complex at this point in time. But I should point out that when governments want it to happen, generally things happen. Germany, they're 100%, they want vehicle to grid, they say it's going to be part of their future. Many European countries say that they need it. Australia, obviously, we've approved it, vehicle to grid here in Australia. And it's actually cheaper than you think now that the government is putting out this $2.3 billion for subsidies. It's actually more affordable than you realise. Here's one example, and I think there's other examples like this. This is one example where the battery is inside this, so is the inverter, and so is the charger. It's all in one product. That's from ZENe, and here's the DC charger. And they're capable of either 11 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt. And there's a few other models, as I said, but this is the one that can work right now with different cars in the market. However, you do have to buy it with a battery. So if you've already got a battery system, you are adding to that. But considering you can buy it with a small battery, you can buy it with a 5 kilowatt battery, it's not actually that expensive. That's one option. And this works right now with at least 8 different models of cars that you can buy right now. So there's 3 parts to the system. This is just an example. You can get an 8 kilowatt battery, comes with a DC charger and an inverter. Now the battery modules can be 5, 8, you can make them bigger if you want to. And it explains here it's a 12.5 or 25 kilowatt charger. So that means you can charge your car pretty fast if you want to. It works through your DC charging port, not your AC. Now, as you guys can see, there is a price war in China with the government concerned that this is causing problems. You probably heard that news. The government telling BYD that they're going too far. The government getting a bit worried that the price war. But what that means is, for consumers, the prices of electric cars are continuing to come down. And it's much cheaper to have an EV than to buy 6 or 7 Tesla Powerwalls or whatever battery packs you want to buy. But here's the electric vehicle prices falling, and you can see here they're coming down enormously. I can share with you guys this if you like later, but now in China, 66% of cars, if you compare the petrol-powered version to the EV is cheaper. 66% of them. That's a pretty significant number, and that's continuing to grow. In fact, in the last 2 weeks, 57% of all cars sold in China were electric. So EV prices fit parity across many models, but that's only going to continue because of the fall in battery prices. So right now the battery prices are around $55 per kilowatt hour for LFP, around 55. But people are saying with sodium batteries coming, that could reduce the price to $10. You can imagine what would happen if that happened. Here shows you the used prices of EVs and gas cars, internal combustion, just shows you that EV prices are coming down. So battery prices are going to deliver cost parity for EVs. And what does that mean? More adoption. Now guys, I did a video yesterday showing that many of the manufacturers outside of China are now using those Tesla cylindrical battery cells, which are about 4680, around approximately that size. That will increase energy density by 20%. They're all saying that same number. So that would mean people might be more likely to buy an EV if the range is closer to, say, 800 kilometers. Potentially some people don't want to buy one for that reason, right? So the new iX3 from BMW has 800 kilometers of range, and a whole bunch of new models will have much more range than they do today. So it's, I think, another reason why we're going to see in Australia 10%, 8% of cars being EVs to maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% in the next few years. By 2040, long-range EVs will cost less than $22,000 US, says Bloomberg. Now it's all about the cost declines in batteries. But Australia's cheapest EV is cheaper than a Toyota Corolla. So the BYD Dolphin costs less than a Toyota Corolla. So we're already at that point, right, where EVs are cheaper. That's an MG4. That's a BYD Dolphin. Now Toyota says EVs will never pass 30% globally. How do you guys feel? Would you agree with that? I actually think that we're going to pass 30% globally within the next couple of years. We're already at about 25% globally.
Does it mean new car sales?
Yeah. But if you look at countries like Shanghai, for example, right? Shanghai, 70% of the cars on the road in Shanghai are electric. So there's obviously Norway's, the fleet there is electrifying very quickly as well. This is an old presentation. It's 2 months old. 29% growth in March. So EV sales this year are actually up more. They're actually up 33% worldwide. And if we don't include America, which is and Australia, EV sales are actually up 45% worldwide. The US and Australia, we're letting the team down. We're letting the global team down. So there's some numbers about sales in China. I've got to get through it quick. Passengers, you can see EV sales in China continually growing. And if you look at the actual car sales in Australia now, a very large number of them are actually from China, whether that's Chinese brands or non-Chinese brands. Nissan now saying that their Mazda and Nissan both saying that their EVs that they make in China will be sold in Australia. So really these numbers are reflective of probably what will happen in Australia. We're just a bit behind them. Now, 21 million cars sold total this year. 4.1 million were electric in the first quarter. That's worldwide. Gives you an idea of the numbers. And here's some of the best-selling cars. I'll send you guys a list of this later on, but if you're interested, as you can see, this is worldwide car sales, and none of these are not Chinese. So I get emails like almost every day saying that I'm being paid by the Chinese government. And I say, how? How can I get someone's money? I need it. Best-selling EVs. So Tesla Model Y is the best-selling EV despite all the negativity this year. But as you can see, the rest of them are Chinese. The Geely hatchback, that costs $8,000. And that's bigger than the BYD Seagull. That's actually just slightly smaller than a Toyota Corolla, and it costs $8,000 US. So that's an amazing car. The Tesla Model 3, but as you can see, they're all Chinese or Tesla, and there is a Volkswagen in 10th place.
Sam,
yeah.
The Tesla's Chinese too. I drive one.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is China. It is made in China, isn't it? Yeah.
Actually, in fact, the BMW i3 that you mentioned.
Chinese as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was meaning the parent company, but you're right though. You're right, guys. Yeah. So, most popular vehicle type in Australia is utes. Geely have told me when I saw the VP that they are bringing in the Radar, the electric ute. There's two sizes to that. There's a big one that's closer to a Ford F-150, and there's a smaller one that's like a size of a typical Ranger. And they're also bringing in the E-Rev version. So what that is, it's an electric version. They just have a little small generator for people who want to do towing. So that's going to be some options, and when they're bringing those in, there's going to be a whole floodgates open with those. But Australians are not aware that we're witnessing the largest and fastest disruption in history, and that is disrupting more than cars, much more than cars, the entire energy industry. So we use 700 gigawatt hours of electricity through the wires every day. So you can really think about that, 700 gigawatt hours, that's enough energy to charge 9 million Model 3s daily, okay? 9 million. Australia has 21 million cars on the road right now. 21 million cars. If the average battery size per car is 60, but it's actually a little bigger than that, then we would have a capacity of 1.26 terawatt hours just from their EVs, right? That's double what we use in Australia every day. That's double Australia's entire grid use every day. So if only half of Australia's car EVs were plugged into the grid, that would be enough to power our entire grid, if they were all electric, which will eventually happen. So, Australia's grid is complicated, but electric cars powered by 4 million solar panels, which is growing every single month, is part of the solution. And manufacturers are really desperate to make their cars warranty them for vehicle to grid, because they know that's what you guys want. They know that they're getting emails all the time. People are asking for that. So this is showing you the cost of electricity for solar and batteries is much cheaper, but the staggering rise of rooftop solar in Australia, we actually have adopted more rooftop solar per person than any other country in the world, is key to solving our issues with getting off coal. And not worrying about the coalition's plan for nuclear, we don't actually need it. We just need our EVs to plug into the grid and plug into all this solar we're wasting. So, more than 300,000 rooftop solar systems were installed in Australia in 2024, so we now have more than 4 million. Now I think, right, if the government is subsidising solar, giving us 2.3 billion to connect our cars and not waste all our solar, all of a sudden we have this solution where we can use our cars, EVs, to power the grid. And I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, what are you paying for your electricity? And you're going to say, well, actually I'm not paying anything. The government is giving, or my energy retailer is giving me $1,000, $2,000 a year. And you can do it too. You've got a solar system, you can do exactly the same thing. And I think when people see that, when you tell them that, and they say, well, my EVs paying me money every month, I'm not paying for electricity, that people probably want to adopt them a bit quicker and probably want to jump on this opportunity. Because right now, as you guys have mentioned to me before earlier, the cost to actually go and connect your car to the grid now is actually much lower than you think because of this incentive. Up to $5,000 off the battery system that can connect you to the grid. So that's a solution, as you can see. We only need half of the cars in Australia to be plugged into the grid, and that will provide us all the electricity the grid actually needs. I'm going to run through this because I've run out of time. But the average size per home is 10 kilowatts for your solar system right now. And that's growing. In fact, I think it's grown a little bit above that over the last few months. That shows you the amount of power you can actually stick into your car and then stick it back into the grid or use it in your house after the sun goes down. So I think it's the perfect solution. I'll run through all this. Now, here's the other solution. A lot of people complain about EVs, adoption's not fast enough, can't tow with it. Some of you guys have told me that today, you can't tow yet, and it's true. But these are the new batteries, right? These are the new batteries. And this is CATL, biggest battery company in the world. Most of the EVs in Australia, probably 50% of them are powered by CATL batteries. This is their new condensed battery that has double the energy density of your current Tesla battery cells, or your current NMC battery cells, which are probably in about 50% of the cars in Australia. The rest of them are LFP. But that's 500 watt hours per kilogram. So that would enable you to have an electric car with a range of about 1,500 kilometres. If you kept the battery pack the same size, in say a Model 3, that's the range you'd get, about close to 1,500 kilometres at 500 watt hours per kilogram. So that's the future of the battery market. We're seeing more and more batteries. This is only one example. I can give you another 50 examples, but this is just one example before I head off and give the next person some time. But that's the future. And I think when people see, oh, my electric truck can do 1,000 kilometres of range, that whole range anxiety issue in Australia will just erode and disappear. And that's going to happen very soon. So you guys are the real innovators here. You're sort of getting in early, and I think that this market's going to explode. So I just want to personally thank you guys for being part of this transition, because for me, it's so important. It's like an emotional thing, and I feel a connection to it. And when I see you guys running these businesses, I like really want you to succeed and to really kill it. So thank you for coming tonight and for supporting all this energy transition. Cheers.